Not the kind that comforts, but the kind that hangs in the air like something waiting to be heard. William had always believed in order. Keys placed precisely on the table, coffee at 7:10, lights off at 11. But the night he came home and saw himself sitting on the couch, staring back with the same cold eyes, something inside him cracked. There was no scream, no struggle, just a moment where the world paused and reality bent. Because in that room, only one William belonged, and the other one had no intention of leaving. The rain had come suddenly, soaking William to the bone before he'd even made it up the steps to his third-floor apartment. The city always looked lonelier in the rain, lights smudged by the blur of water on glass. He slipped his keys into the lock, the familiar click giving him a strange comfort. Routine, predictability. His life depended on it. But as the door creaked open and he stepped inside, he knew something was wrong. The air felt lived in, not the way it always did. Not like home, but like someone had already made themselves comfortable. He tossed his coat onto the hook, kicked his shoes off with a tired grunt, and glanced toward the living room. And then he stopped. There he was, sitting on the couch, legs crossed, fingers steepled, head tilted slightly to the side like he'd been waiting hours. The man's face was identical. Same strong jaw, same short dark hair, same scar on the brow from a bike accident in third grade. But the look in his eyes was different. Hollow, calculated. William didn't speak at first. He couldn't. His body locked in place, brain scrambling to find a logical explanation. A mirror? A dream? A delusion? But it wasn't. The man on the couch smirked, leaned forward just enough, and spoke. "Finally," he said, "you're late." The voice matched his own. Every inflection, every breath. It was like hearing himself through a tape recorder, but older, sharper. William stepped back instinctively, hands searching for the light switch behind him, but it was already on. Bright. Real. "What the hell is this?" he managed, voice unsteady. The other William stood up slowly, hands raised in mock surrender. "Relax. I'm not here to hurt you." William's heart thudded against his chest, his pulse roaring in his ears. "You're me," he whispered. The man nodded once. In a way. In a way. Either you are or you aren't." Silence stretched between them like a wire drawn tight. The other William's expression changed, subtly, like he was studying him, measuring him. William felt cold, despite the warmth of the apartment. "Do you believe in alternate realities?" the man asked. William frowned. "What?" "Copies of ourselves. Choices splitting timelines. Two versions of the same person walking two different paths." William shook his head slowly. "You're insane." "Am I?" the other him said calmly. "Then explain why I remember everything about you. Explain the scar, the lock code, the dreams you never told anyone about." William took a step back. "No, this is a trick. You're lying. I was you," the man said. "And then you became me." The sentence made no sense. It looped in his head like static, refusing to settle. William stumbled back into the kitchen, grabbing the nearest thing, a knife from the block, and pointed at the imposter. His own reflection, somehow breathing. "Get out. Get the fuck out of my apartment." The other William didn't flinch. He simply smiled. "You think this is your apartment? You think this life is yours? You have no idea what you are, William. You're just one version, one draft." The lights flickered. William's grip on the knife tightened. "If you don't leave right now." "You'll do what?" he interrupted. "Kill me? Kill yourself." The question echoed, heavy and sharp. William's hands trembled. "You're not real," he said, voice cracking. "You can't be real." The other him stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, until they were inches apart. William could see the tiny scar near his left eye, the one only he would know about. "I am real," the man whispered. "And so are the others." "What others?" William asked, but the room suddenly felt smaller, the shadows darker. The man stepped back and walked to the bookshelf, pulling out a thin leather notebook. "You've been having the dreams, haven't you? The falling, the fire, the mirror that cracks when you look into it." William's breath hitched. "How do you know that?" The man tossed the notebook onto the coffee table. "Because I had them too. Before he came." William stared. "Ooh," but the man only turned toward the window, watching the rain. "You'll meet him soon enough." Then he turned and walked to the door. "Wait," William said, knife still in hand. "Where are you going?" The man opened the door, looking over his shoulder. "I just wanted to see how far along you were. How much of me is still in you. But it's okay. You'll remember. Eventually." And then he was gone. William stood alone in the apartment, heart pounding, rain drumming against the windows. He didn't move for a long time. When he finally did, he opened the notebook. On the first page, in his own handwriting, were the words, "This has happened before." William sat on the edge of the couch for what felt like hours. The rain hadn't stopped, and neither had the cold that was settling inside him. The notebook sat open on the table, each page scribbled in his handwriting, though he had no memory of ever writing it. Pages filled with thoughts, warnings, drawings, some of them frantic, like they were written during a panic attack. Repeated lines jumped out at him. "He's not the first. Watch the mirrors. If you see yourself again, run. Fire's the only way." He didn't sleep that night. Every creak in the walls made him flinch. Every shadow felt like it was watching. At 3:14 a.m., the hallway light flickered and buzzed like static. He didn't check. He didn't move. He just sat in the corner of the room, knees pulled to his chest, watching the front door like a child waiting for a monster to appear. Morning came gray and lifeless. The streets outside looked the same, but nothing inside William did. He walked to the bathroom, eyes hollow, beard unshaven. As he stood over the sink, he glanced up. His reflection blinked before he did. William stumbled back, heart skipping a beat. The mirror, something was wrong. He leaned in, breath fogging the glass. His reflection was there, but delayed. It followed him, yes, but with a fraction of a second lag. barely noticeable, but it was there. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." He slammed his fist against the mirror. The glass cracked slightly along the side, a spider web of fine lines forming near the edge. But the reflection caught up, and now it was normal again. He stared at himself, trembling. "Am I losing my mind?" He called in sick. He didn't want to go out. Not because he was afraid of the world, but because he wasn't sure which version of him might show up there, or which version of him people might see. He turned the notebook pages again, slower this time. One page had a crude map, his apartment layout, with a red X marked behind the hallway closet. He stared at it for a long time, then got up and walked over. The closet was just that, a closet. Coats, boots, a dusty umbrella. But he ran his fingers along the back wall and felt something odd, uneven, a seam. He dug his fingers in and pulled. The panel gave way with a dry creak. Behind it was a narrow crawl space, no more than 3 feet deep. And inside, illuminated only by the dim hallway light, were photos. Dozens of them. Old. Faded. And every single one of them was him. Some showed him smiling. Others unconscious. One showed him, eyes wide open, throat cut, slumped in a bathtub. The dates on the backs, all within the past 7 years. He dropped them in horror, stepping away from the hidden chamber as bile rose in his throat. His mind spun, trying to make sense of what he'd just seen. Were they manipulated? Fabricated? Or worse? He turned around and nearly screamed. The man was standing in the hallway. The other William. Same coat. Same shoes. Same lifeless stare. "You found it," he said quietly. William backed away. "Who are you?" "You," the man said. "But earlier. I've lived this already. Now it's your turn." "My turn for what?" William shouted. "What the hell is happening to me?" But the man didn't answer. He just smiled faintly. Then something strange happened. William blinked, and the hallway was empty again. No one there. He rushed to the door, yanked it open, looked into the hallway. Nothing. Silence. No footsteps. No sound. No proof anyone had ever been there. And when he turned back, the photos were gone. The hidden panel was sealed again. The notebook was blank. And a mirror? When he looked into it again, his reflection smiled before he did. William didn't remember falling asleep, but he woke up on the floor. The room was dark, his head pounding. The clock blinked 4:06 a.m., frozen, as if time had refused to continue until he was awake. Cold sweat clung to his body, his breath shaky, uneven. He stared at the ceiling for a long moment before realizing the worst part. He had no memory of going to bed, no memory of collapsing, no memory of anything after looking into the mirror. He stood up, legs weak beneath him, and stumbled to the kitchen. Everything looked the same, and yet it felt slightly rearranged. The chairs were pulled out. One of the cabinet doors was half open. A spoon lay in the sink, used wet. He hadn't eaten since yesterday. He was certain of that. As he looked closer, he saw something scratched into the wooden kitchen table. Small, rough letters carved directly into the surface. Stay awake. He took a step back. His mouth went dry. He hadn't written that. He never would have scratched his own furniture. But there was fresh. The wood still raw around the edges. The message wasn't old. His phone was missing. He checked every surface, every drawer, every pocket. Gone. Just gone. Panic set in. Not the kind that makes you scream, but the deeper kind. The one that sits in your chest like something waiting to grow claws. He grabbed his coat and rushed to the hallway, only to find the building completely silent. No sound from other apartments. No lights under the doors. As he made his way down the stairs, he heard a creak behind him. He turned. There, at the top of the staircase, stood himself. Again, same face, same eyes, but this time, this version of him had blood on its shirt, and it was smiling. William froze. They stared at each other. Neither moved, and then the other him whispered, "You're still dreaming." The stairwell went black. No light, no sound, no direction. William stumbled down blindly, hitting the railing, scraping his hands on the wall. And then light. A small emergency bulb flickering at the ground floor. He reached it gasping, panting like he'd run miles. He burst through the building's front doors into the street. Only it wasn't the street. It was a long hallway. His apartment hallway. No matter where he ran, he was back. The wallpaper. The flickering light near apartment 2B. The exact same doormat outside his door. He spun in place, wild-eyed. This wasn't possible. He opened his door. The apartment was waiting. But something had changed. The furniture was reversed. Mirror flipped. The coffee table on the left. The couch on the right. The pictures on the wall hung upside down. A dull hum filled the air like static bleeding through the walls. And then he saw himself again, this time on the balcony. His back was turned, hands resting calmly on the railing. Silent. Still. William walked toward him slowly, the floor groaning beneath his steps. "Who are you?" he asked again, voice trembling. The man didn't turn. William stepped closer. "Answer me." The man finally moved, turning just enough for William to see a scar across his throat. A deep jagged line stitched shut. He mouthed something. William couldn't hear it. He stepped closer. The hum grew louder. "What did you say?" And then, barely audible over the static, "I'm what's left." The balcony door slammed shut on its own. Locked, trapping William inside. With himself. The balcony door wouldn't open. William slammed his fist against the glass until his knuckles went raw, but the reflection, his reflection, stood calmly on the other side, unmoved. The stitched throat, the hollow eyes, the faintest smile. Like it knew something William didn't. And then, just as suddenly, the door creaked open by itself. But the man on the balcony was gone. William stepped outside, chest heaving, scanning the street 3 floors below. Empty. Not a single car. Not a single soul. The city was gone. Buildings remained, but lifeless. Like sets in a movie studio, hollow shells pretending to be real. He turned back inside. The apartment had changed again. Now it was filled with clocks. Dozens, all ticking out of sync. Some slow, some fast, some not moving at all. Wall clocks, desk clocks, even old grandfather clocks, their pendulums swinging to some unseen rhythm. Tick, 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 tick. On the table sat a note. Typed, not handwritten. They're not all you. Some are what's left after you die. He stared at it, trembling. What the hell did that mean? He picked it up, turned it over. Nothing on the back. He dropped it like it was poison. He had to get out. He grabbed his coat, stormed through the apartment, yanked the front door open, and stepped into a hospital hallway. White walls, fluorescent lights, the scent of disinfectant. He looked behind him. No apartment. Just another hallway stretching on endlessly. His feet moved on their own. Something pulling him forward. Or maybe pushing. He turned the first corner and stopped dead in his tracks. There were 5 gurneys lined against the wall. On each one lay a man. The same man. Him. Every version of him had died differently. One with a slit wrist, one with a gas mask still on, one charred beyond recognition, one with eyes gouged out, and one still breathing. Barely. William stumbled back in horror, heart racing, the walls spinning. He wasn't hallucinating. These were real. Too real. The one that was alive turned his head slowly, eyes bloodshot, mouth twitching as if trying to speak. William stepped closer. What is this? The dying William coughed, barely a whisper. You're next. William grabbed his shoulders, shaking him. Why is this happening? What am I? The man tried to speak, but blood bubbled at his lips. And then the monitors flatlined. One by one, the other gurneys disappeared. Only William remained, standing alone in the hallway. Behind him, a nurse walked by, clipboard in hand. She didn't look up. Excuse me, William said. She walked past like he wasn't there. He ran after her, shouting, screaming, Look at me. Please, I'm right here. She turned into a doorway and vanished. He followed, but the door led into his own apartment again. Back to the clocks. Back to the impossible. Back to the hum. But now, there was someone sitting at the kitchen table. Another William. But this one looked older, exhausted, eyes sunken, beard thick, skin pale like he hadn't seen daylight in weeks. He didn't even react when William entered. He just stared blankly at the ticking clocks. Which one are you? William asked, voice shaking. The man didn't look at him. Are you real? Still no answer. William stepped closer, fists clenched. Say something. The man slowly turned toward him. I stopped talking when I realized none of it mattered. What do you mean? I met all of them. The versions of us. The ones who lasted. The ones who didn't. The ones who killed. The ones who begged. William felt cold crawl up his spine. And you? He whispered. Which one are you? The man looked up, eyes full of pain. I'm the one who stayed. The clocks all stopped ticking. Every single one. Silence swallowed the room. and the lights went out. The lights didn't come back on. William stood frozen in the dark, the echo of ticking clocks now replaced with a deeper sound, something like breathing, but not his own, slow, rhythmic, patient, as if something unseen was watching him from across the room. He reached for his phone instinctively, then remembered it was still missing. A dull, red glow flickered from the hallway. He followed it, cautiously, each step heavier than the last. The hallway had changed again. The wallpaper was peeling, the wood warped, and the air smelled like burnt paper and something rotten underneath. At the end of the hall was a door, one he didn't remember ever being there. He reached out and opened it. The room beyond was filled with mirrors, wall to wall, floor to ceiling. Mirrors of every size and shape, some cracked, some fogged, some clean enough to see every pore on his face. And in each one, a different version of William stared back. Some calm, some shaking, one crying, one covered in blood, one laughing silently, eyes wild and deranged. William stepped forward, surrounded by his own eyes. Infinite versions of the same soul stretched across parallel fates. And then, from behind, a voice familiar and wrong at the same time. You wanted the truth. Are you sure you're ready for it? William turned. The man standing there wore a suit. Clean, black tie, combed hair, but his face was exactly his. Perfectly calm, except his eyes. His eyes were completely black. Who are you? William asked. The man tilted his head slightly. I'm the beginning, he said, and I'm the end. William stepped back. You're not real. The man smiled. Neither are you. A tremor rippled through the mirrors, like wind, but from the inside. Several of the reflections began to move independently, no longer mimicking him. They stared. They whispered. They scratched the glass from the other side. William tried to look away, but the mirrors wouldn't let him. His eyes were drawn back every time, like magnets. Every version of you ends up here, the man said. Every path leads to this room. Why? William whispered. Because the moment you started questioning yourself, you fractured. You split into pieces. Copies. Memories. Ghosts of choices you never made. William's breathing grew shallow. I'm still real, he said. I'm me. The man walked slowly through the mirror room, trailing one hand across the glass. You're a shadow of a man who tried to forget who he was. He created you to survive his guilt. But he forgot something. What? The man turned to him fully. Shadows don't live forever. The mirrors began to crack, one by one. A slow, sickening chain reaction. Glass splitting down the middle of each alternate William. Shards falling like raindrops. Blood leaking from some of the reflections. Others screaming. One pounding the glass with fists until his hands broke open. William turned to run, but the door was gone. The room was sealed. Trapped. The suited man stepped closer. You can either become one of them, or you can end it. William's voice was barely a whisper. "In what?" "The loop. The curse. The lie." The man pulled something from his coat. A matchbox. He held it out. William stared at it, his hands shaking. "Why fire?" he asked. The man looked up at the mirrors. "Because fire doesn't remember." William took the matchbox. His fingers fumbled as he struck one, flame flickering to life in the dimness. Shadows danced across the walls. The reflections writhed. Some pleaded, some grinned. The suited man stepped back into the mirrors and vanished, absorbed into a reflection that laughed as it cracked in half. William stared at the flame. Then, slowly, he lowered it to the ground. The fire spread fast. The walls caught. The frames curled. The mirrors screamed. And William stood in the center of it all, eyes closed, whispering something to himself. I was real, until the glass shattered, and the world turned to black. He expected to wake up to fire, to screams, to burning skin and choking smoke. But instead, William opened his eyes to silence. The room was gone. The flames were gone. Even the mirrors. He lay on cold concrete, under a flickering light, in what looked like a storage basement. His hands were clean. No soot. No cuts. No signs of the nightmare. Except the matchbox, still in his palm, unburnt. He sat up slowly, dizzy, disoriented, heart hammering as his eyes adjusted. The room had no windows, just a rusted metal door, one single vent blowing stale air, and one item lying directly in front of him, a photo album. He opened it with shaking hands. Page after page, every photo was of him, sitting in this room, standing by that wall, lying where he just woke up. In each photo, he looked different, older in some, younger in others, dead in a few. He turned to the last page. A photo of him, taken from above, taken right now. He dropped the book, heart pounding. Something was watching him, had always been watching him. He backed up to the wall and noticed something he hadn't seen before. Writing, carved into the cement just behind him. You were never the first. He staggered to his feet, head spinning. You were never the first. The words echoed in his skull like thunder. It wasn't just one doppelganger. It wasn't just one loop. It was a factory, a cycle, and he was just the latest version. The matchbox slipped from his hand. It hit the ground softly, but the sound seemed to echo for miles. He picked it up again like it might explode. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Above, coming closer. He held his breath. The rusted door creaked once, then stopped. He approached it slowly, pressing an ear to the cold steel. Silence. Then a whisper right on the other side. William. He recoiled. It was his voice. Another version of him. He didn't answer. The voice returned. Let me in. Please. I need your help. It sounded broken. Desperate. Familiar. He stepped back, trembling. I don't trust you, he said. Another voice joined in. William, don't listen to him. A second version. Deeper. Colder. Two of them now, arguing, pleading, threatening. More footsteps followed. The voices multiplied. All versions of him. All trying to get in. All trapped just like him. He screamed, "Which one of you is real?" And then, for the first time, silence. Then a calm voice, perfectly steady. "You are." He stared at the door, unable to breathe. "You are always real. The question is, do you want to be?" The voices stopped, all at once, not fading, not stepping away, just cut, as if someone had pressed mute on reality itself. William stood still, back pressed to the wall, the matchbox now clutched in his hand, so tightly his knuckles turned white. "You are always real. The question is, do you want to be?" The words echoed inside him long after they'd been spoken. What did that even mean? Was he not real now? Was there a version of him more authentic than this? Was his entire existence optional? He took a slow step toward the rusted door. Then another. He pressed his palm against it, and it opened without a sound. But the hallway beyond it wasn't the apartment building. It wasn't the city. It wasn't anywhere he recognized. The corridor was black stone, lit by torches that flickered without heat. The walls pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. The air smelled of metal and ash. This wasn't a dream. This was a place designed by the dream. He walked slowly, every step echoing as though the stone. Beneath his feet were hollow. On the walls were carvings, thousands of faces, all his, all different expressions, all screaming silently. At the end of the corridor, a door stood waiting. Unlike the others, this one was perfect, clean, white. He reached for the knob, expecting cold metal, but it was warm, too warm, alive. When he opened it, he stepped into a room that felt familiar. His apartment, but frozen in time. Everything untouched, dustless, like a memory recreated with surgical precision. And sitting in the chair across from the couch was him, older, grayer, sharper, the original. William stared, and the man looked up from his tea. "Welcome," the original said. William didn't move. "Am I the last one?" he asked. The man smiled softly. "No, just the first one to make it this far." William stepped in, the door closing behind him on its own. "Why?" he asked. "Why did you make me?" The man leaned back, resting his hands calmly on the armrests. "To suffer for me," he said simply. "I had things I couldn't face. Memories, regrets, mistakes. I learned how to split myself, create fragments, send pieces of my guilt into new versions of me. Let them carry it." William stared at him, a mix of rage and sorrow in his eyes. "You used me. I was you," the man said evenly. "And one day you'll become me. Unless..." He reached beneath the table and pulled out a mirror. A small, simple hand mirror. William looked into it, and the reflection didn't follow. It blinked differently, smiled differently, and then whispered, "Burn me." The original William stood slowly, calm, steady. "You have a choice," he said. "Either return to the loop, continue the cycle, or end us all. William glanced down at the matchbox in his hand. His heart thundered. If I burn it, there will be no more versions, the man said. No more fragments. No more dreams. Just silence. And you. I'll go with it. William stepped back. Everything around him began to flicker. The apartment, the walls, the man, all pulsing, glitching, as if reality was waiting on him. He struck the match, held it to the mirror. The glass began to smoke. Crack. Shriek. The older William didn't run, didn't scream. He simply smiled and whispered, "Thank you." The fire consumed the mirror, then the walls, then the world. And William closed his eyes. The fire took everything. The mirror, the apartment, the older version of himself, even the ticking, even the dreams. And William was standing in the middle of a white room. Just white. No shadows. No edges. No time. No sound except one. A heartbeat. He looked down. His hands were whole. The matchbox was gone. He was alone. Or so he thought. A single screen appeared in the distance, suspended in air. It flickered on. A camera feed of him sleeping peacefully in a hospital bed. Monitors beeping gently beside him. Nurses walking past like shadows. No urgency, just routine. And then movement. From the far side of the room on the screen, a figure stepped into view. It was himself, but not older. Younger, calmer, smiling. The version that never broke. The one that stayed behind. William stared at the screen, heart pounding. The younger him walked up to the bed and whispered something in the ear of the sleeping William. On the screen, the monitors flatlined. William gasped. The white room trembled. And behind him a voice. Now, there's only one. He spun around. It was the younger him. Perfect. Untouched. Real. What is this? William said, stepping back. The younger one grinned. You thought you destroyed the cycle, but you were just the last copy that needed to be erased. William's breath caught. You killed me. No, the other said, stepping closer. I became you. I waited for you to burn all, so I could slip into the world with no fragments left. The walls began to crack, the white room shaking. You're not real, William shouted. You're just another version. The man smiled wider. I'm the version the world will see. He raised his hand. William felt his body freezing, slowing, solidifying. The younger self whispered, Sleep now. We'll take it from here. And everything went black. 1 week later, news cameras flashed outside a city hospital. A man, long believed to be in a coma for 3 years, had suddenly woken up. Miraculously. Perfect health. No memory of trauma. Doctors called it divine. He smiled for the camera. His name? William. He looked into the lens, and his smile flickered. Just slightly, as if someone else was still watching. From somewhere deep inside. The end.